Good morning and a very warm welcome to all the attendees. My name is Ashish and I welcome you all on the very first day of the 3-day webinar series. First of all, a happy new year to all the attendees. May you all have a happy and a prosperous 2017. On the screen, you can see the agenda that we have for today. Before we move on to the webinar and the agenda, we would like some more attendees to join this session. Hence, we would start the session at exact 10:03. We'll wait for 3 minutes more. Some more attendees will join in and then we can start the session at exact 10:03. Meanwhile, you can go to the agenda that's been displayed on the screen right now. Thank you so much. Good morning once again and a very warm welcome to all the attendees. My name is Ashish and I'll be your trainer for today. I welcome you all on the very first day of this 3-day webinar series. On the screen, you can see the agenda that we have for today. But before we move on to the agenda, we would like to just set the ground rules for this entire session. To ensure that the session has been completed on time and without any interruption, all the attendees would be in a listen-only mode during the session. We'll have a question and answer round, and that's why we will request you all to please park your question for that session. That will happen in the end. If you still wish to ask the question, you can use the chat window, but we would answer the question only in the end itself. Now, before we move on to the agenda, also we would like to update you that you will receive an email which will have the recording link for today's session, and it will also have the answers to the question that were being asked during the session. You can look for that email that will be sent to you by the end of the day today. Right, before we move on to the agenda that we have for today, we would like to understand whether you are able to hear me clearly or not. Please participate in the survey that's been displayed on the screen right now. I would request all the attendees to please participate in the survey that's been displayed on the screen right now. This will help us in understanding that you're able to hear me clearly. We'll be closing the survey in next 5 seconds. For those who have not participated, please do participate in the survey. Thank you so much. We'll be closing the survey now. For those who are not able to hear me clearly, I would request you to please log out and log back in to the session again. That might change a little bit of a voice quality. But another thing that we would like to understand is As per our understanding, all the attendees who are trying to attend this session are a recent joiners of QuickBooks. They've just started using QuickBooks. So we just wanted to know how confident you are now before attending this webinar of using QuickBooks. This is a pre-webinar survey that we want to know that how much confident are you in participating or in using QuickBooks on your own. And hopefully once we will convert this, once we will be able to do the webinar, we might see some change in the result that we received right now. So we just wanted to gauge that through this survey. I would request you all the attendees who can participate in this survey. That will be great. We'll do the similar survey on the final day of the webinar as well. We'll be closing this survey in next 5 seconds. For those who have not participated, please participate in the survey. Thank you so much for your participation. I'm closing the survey now. Thanks a lot. Right, let's move on to the agenda that we have for today. Because it's the very first day of the QuickBooks webinar, we would first of all introduce to the cloud technology. Then we will talk about some of the terminologies that we use specifically in QuickBooks. We'll touch base on some of the accounting principles as well. And then we will move on to the QuickBooks. We will go to the home page, we'll do some settings of the company, the initial setup, and then we will start adding accounts. We'll add the accounts, we'll add customers, suppliers, we'll try to import the list as well. And then we will use all those customers and suppliers in transactions. So we'll add invoices, we'll add bills, and we will see what is the impact of these transactions on the profit and loss report or on the balance sheet report. And then in the end, we will have a question and answer session as well. All right, so without wasting any time, let's move on to the first topic, that is about overview of cloud technology. Now, as per the accounting principles, what exactly do we mean by cloud technology? Cloud technology basically means you're using a software which can allow you access at any point of time to do your accounting. You don't have to be at a specific location to access your computer. You don't have to be at a specific environment to access it. You can be anywhere. All what you need is just your mobile phone or your laptop and an internet connection. That would help you in accessing your accounts, doing your day-to-day transactions without any issues. This is what is the feasibility that QuickBooks Online provides you. The next topic is about accounting principles, the accounting 101 glossary that we have. Now, before we move on to the accounting, we have to understand what exactly is an account. An account basically is a financial record of an organization that registered all their financial transactions, which includes their income transactions, their expense transactions, their sales, their purchases. Based on that, we get their profit and loss or the balance sheet in the end. There are 5 types of accounts preferably, and then you can further have sub-accounts of these 5 types. The major 5 types of accounts are assets, liabilities, income, capital, and expense. You can then further have different subtypes of these main types of accounts. Of these parent accounts, you can have sub-accounts, but then these are the major 5 types of accounts which prevail across the globe. There are 2 types of accounting method that prevails in accounting. One is accrual accounting and other is cash accounting. What exactly do we mean by accrual accounting? Accrual accounting is a method that records revenues and expenses, that is your income and purchases, as and when they incur, regardless of when you receive the payment or when you make the payment. So just to give you an example, if I've done a purchase today and I've received the bill, but the bill has a due date of 25 days after. So I have 25 days to pay that bill. But when I record the transaction, I will record it today. My expenses will get affected today itself because I'm dealing in accrual accounting. Then there is a cash accounting, which a cash accounting is a method where receipts are recorded during the period they are received. So, or the expenses are recorded when the expenses are actually paid. So whenever the amount goes out of your bank account or it arrives into your bank account, that is when you record your transaction. This is what cash accounting is all about. So that's the only difference between cash accounting and accrual accounting. QuickBooks believes in double entry system. It works on double entry system. Now what exactly is a double entry system? Double entry system is actually based on a fact that every financial transaction has equal and opposite effect in at least two different accounts. So it's basically if you're trying to purchase something, if you do a purchase, your expenses are going up. Similarly, your bank is also going down because you're making a payment from a bank and then you're purchasing it. So your purchase or your expenses are going up, but on the other hand, your bank is also going down. So that's what the double entry system is, which means one account gets debited and one accounts get credited. And having said that, there are two types of accounts that effect that happen when you enter an accounting entry. One is a debit, other is a credit. A debit basically is an accounting entry that either increases an asset or expense account or decreases a liability or equity account. On the other hand, a credit is an accounting entry that either increases a liability or equity account or decreases an asset or expense account. So we'll work on these transactions, how exactly it works. Also, the most important topic that we have, or the most important terminologies that we use in QuickBooks, is accounts receivable and accounts payable. Accounts receivable refers to the outstanding invoices of a company. Basically, all the sales transactions that we do related to customers, anything that has to affect customers' balance goes under accounts receivable in QuickBooks Online. Anything that is dealing with supplier balances goes into accounts payable. So this is what the accounts receivable and accounts payable is all about. Now, we have to really understand one thing, that whenever you're working in QuickBooks, and if you're trying to affect customers' balance, you have to use accounts receivable. And whenever you're dealing with suppliers, you have to use accounts payable. You cannot affect balances of customers and suppliers without affecting these two accounts. These are some of the important topics that we use. Of course, we have profit and loss report, which includes all your income and expense accounts. And then we have balance sheet report, which actually is equal to your assets, equal to liabilities and the equity. So we have all those reports there. But let's move on to QuickBooks first of all, and let's start setting up the company first of all. Now, if you see, this is the screen that we are on. This is the home page of a company file where you can see all your data. Right now, it doesn't show anything. It shows a blank page here. You'll see the name of the company on the top. Then you will see some of these icons. And if you scroll it down, you can see income, expenses, and profit and loss on the home page itself of your company. On the left hand side, you can see gateways to your customers, suppliers, employees, transactions, different options which are available on the left hand panel. And on the right hand panel, you can see options like bank accounts. Then you have the activities, whatever transaction that you have done. It doesn't show anything right now. Reason being, it's a blank file. It doesn't have a lot of data in this right now. In fact, it doesn't have any data in this right now. So let's set up the company first of all. The very first task that we have to do is we have to set up the company so that when you enter invoices, when you do sales and purchases, it should have the accurate data on the top. How do we do that? We have to just click on the gear icon on the top right hand side, and it'll open up this pop-up window in front of you where you can see four headings: settings, list, tools, and your company. Under settings, you will have the option of company settings. So we can click on company settings. This will open up the company settings page in front of you where you can add the logo of the company. You can update the information, the company's information there. You can add the accounting method, whether it's accrual or cash. You can add your company's PAN number here, and you can add the SIN number here. Also, it shows about categories, that is classes and locations. So classes basically is cost centers. If you have four different departments in your business, so when you run your profit and loss report, you can see overall profit, the X amount of profit that you have gained or that you have made in a certain year. But if you want to see a breakup of that profit as per departments, like you have a HR department, you have a finance department, a marketing department, and a research department. You want to see which department is more profitable for you. You can track this through classes. So you can just switch this on. You can switch on classes here. And whenever you enter the sales or a purchase transaction, QuickBooks will ask you that this sales transaction or purchase transaction is for which class. so that end of the month or end of the quarter or end of the year, when you run the profit and loss report, you can run it profit and loss by classes. It will give you a breakup of every class, that which class is profitable for you, which class is generating maximum income, and which one is generating maximum expenses for you. Similarly, we have locations. It's like if you have site offices. If you have one office in Bangalore, one in Pune, one in Delhi, and one in some other part of India. You want to track their addresses, you want to track their income and expenses. And also when you enter an invoice, so let's say I have an office in Bangalore, I want to add, when I use Bangalore as a location, I want to have the invoice address of Bangalore. When I change the location to Pune, it should have Pune address. And when I change the location to Delhi, it should have my Delhi office address. This can be achieved using this option, that is track locations. You just have to switch on this option and you can accordingly call it, whether it's location, division, department, business, store or territory. You can accordingly select this option, and when you add a new location, you can define that what is the new address that you want to be displayed for that particular location. And when you enter an invoice, it will have that location printed on the invoice. This can be achieved through locations option. The next option is customer label. Customer label, as the name suggests, if you've noticed on the left hand side of home page, we have a gateway for customers. If I want that it should not be considered as customer, it should be considered as clients or guest, you just have to change the label here. So if I change it to clients, it will show that the display should be as clients. If you change it to donors, you can accordingly see the effect on the home page itself. I'll leave it the way it is right now, that is customers. We can just click on save and we can click on done here. Now, what we have done is we have initially set up the company. Now we have to do some more changes in the company settings. If you see on the left hand panel, you have some more options. We have just covered company part right now. If you see other options, sales, expenses and advance. Let's go to advanced first of all. In advanced, what you can define here is first month of financial year. There are companies who run their first month from August. There are companies who run their first month from April, and then there are companies who run it for January to December. You can accordingly define which year is it, and then first month of tax year as well. I've defined April, and it's same as financial year because that's what the major companies have as April the financial year, but it can change accordingly. Then we have the option of close the books. Close the books basically means, and this option comes in handy only if you have used QuickBooks for at least a year and more. So which means if you have already done 1 year's financial accounting in QuickBooks, then you can use this option. I'll give you an example. Let's say till 31st of December, I have done all my accounts and I know everything is absolutely correct. I've filed my taxes, my all the reports, all the balances, everything is sorted. Now I want no one should be able to do any changes in my transaction which have been entered on or before 31st of December. What I will do is I will close the books here. I'll check the box here and I can mention the closing date as 31st of December 2016. What it will do is, what this option will do is, it will give you an option to define a date and it will ask you whether you want allow changes after viewing a warning or allow changes after viewing a warning and entering a password. I can select this option, allow changes after viewing a warning and entering password. So if I enter a password here, whatever password that I set up, anyone who will try to enter a transaction on or before 31st of December 2016 or edit a transaction for that matter, he have to enter the password before saving the changes. If he's not aware of the password, he cannot do any changes in my accounts. So it's basically a safety measure that you can use to close the books as of a certain date. Then we have the option of enable account numbers. Enable account numbers basically means there are companies who actually don't track every account with their name, but they track every account with their account numbers. If your company is one of them, you can enable this option. Then we have discount account. That means if you give discount on invoices, you can use this option. Pre-fill forms with previously entered content. What exactly does this mean? If let's say if I have a customer named as A, I have used this customer and entered a transaction for this customer. Next time, if I use the customer number A again, QuickBooks will give me the previously entered invoice, all the details of that invoice again. This option comes in handy only if you have same customer coming in your office to get the same product every now and then. If it's not the scenario, then you can uncheck this option. Otherwise, QuickBooks will automatically pre-fill all the transaction details for that customer. Then you have automatically apply credits. We'll cover this option later on. We have automatically invoice unbilled activity. We'll cover all these options today itself. Then we have, if you see in the extreme bottom, we have other preferences. It says date format. Now what exactly is the date format? It shows dd/mm/yy. If you want to change the date format, you can accordingly change it here. Then it says number format. You can change the number format as well as per your business requirement. And once it's been done, you can just click on save. The next option is on the left hand panel, which is sales in the settings. Now, as the name suggests, sales basically is for the sales transactions. All the sales transactions that you enter, the settings can be changed from here, from this page. Customize the way it looks from your customer. This means it will allow you to change the layout of the invoice. We'll cover this today itself. Then it says sales form content. These are the terms, like net 30 is the 30 days terms. That is the 30 day is the due period that you give to all your customers. You can accordingly change this. If you want to print shipping method, the shipping address of your company on the invoice, you can do that. You have one option of adding 3 custom fields there on the invoice. You can do that as well. Custom transaction numbers is an option. If you enable this option, you will be allowed to add your own invoice number series, which means when you enter the first invoice in QuickBooks, it starts from 1001. What if you want it to be from 2017-18, then 1001? You can do this by checking this option which says custom transaction numbers. Also, it says classification tax and retail invoices, which means if you have tax invoices and retail invoices, you can have different number series for both the invoices. Then you have discount option. If you want discount to be displayed on the invoice, you can check this option there. Last option is round off final amounts for sales transactions, which means if you have a decimal amount in the end, it can round it off to the final amount. Once it's been done, if you scroll it down, you will see products and services. We have these options available. You can accordingly fiddle around with these options. And then if you go to expenses on the left hand panel, you will see some options like show items table on expense and purchase forms. This is an option that is pretty handy because when you do a purchase, in some cases we purchase some goods, we make an expense, probably it could be any expense entry that we're doing. We're purchasing some furniture for our home improvement. We're purchasing any of the stuff that we can consume. But then sometimes we purchase goods from our vendors and then we sell it at a higher cost to our customers, which means it's a stock part that we're purchasing. It's a stock or an inventory that we're purchasing from our vendors and then we're selling it to a customer. In that scenario, this option comes in handy. Show items table on expenses and purchase forms, which means the products that you're purchasing will be there in your product service list. As you purchase, it increases the quantity of those products. As you sell it off, it reduces the quantity of those products. I'll show you how exactly it works when you do the purchase transactions. Then you have the options for use purchase orders. If you do purchase orders, you can switch this on. Otherwise, you can switch it off as well. You have round of final amounts for expense transactions. It works exactly the same way as it works for sales transaction. If you have decimal amount, it will round it off to the final amounts. And then once it's been done, we can just click on save and we can click on done here. So that's been done about the initial company settings. You can of course fiddle around with all the options and then accordingly set it up as per your business requirements. Now that we have done the company settings, what is the next option that we have to do? The very first thing is we need to have some accounts into our chart of accounts. To do so, we can just click on the gear icon again, and under company settings, you have an option of chart of accounts. We can go to chart of accounts here. and that is the place where we can add new accounts. So I click on new here. If you see, there are some default accounts which are already there, like TDS accounts, uncategorized assets. There are some default accounts that QuickBooks provides when you create a new company file. Now what we can do is we can add a new account by clicking on new on the top right hand side. What are the different types of account that you can add? Here we go. We can add bank accounts, current assets account, fixed assets account, non-current assets, credit card account, liabilities account, equity. If you have invested some amount into your business, you can use equity there. Income account, that is the account that should get affected if you purchase some income. Then you have cost of goods sold account. You have expenses. If you make some purchases and you want it to go into expense, you should be able to do the expenses account. These are the type of account that you can add. Let's say if I try to add a bank account here. Now in bank as well, we have multiple types of account. Cash and cash equivalent, if you see the detail type, cash and cash equivalent is a normal bank account. Then you have a cash on hand, which is a petty cash account. Then you have client trust account, current account, like if you have a current account or a savings account, you can accordingly use all these options. I will select cash and cash equivalent, and here on the right hand side, I can just change the name to ICICI, and we can enter a balance as well. So what we can do is, let's say as of 1st of April 2016, I have 100,000 into the account, and I'll just do a save and close to this transaction. That's been done. The transaction has been saved, and if you see, ICICI bank account has this much of a balance, but because it's a double entry system, we mentioned this earlier, if it's a double entry system, my bank account has a balance, then other accounts should also get affected, which is the opening balance equity that also has the same amount here. This is how QuickBooks will work on the double entry system. So now I have an ICICI bank with 100,000 as a balance. Now, what if I was using a different software and I have the entire list kept somewhere? Can I import this? Yes, we can. We have an option through which we can do this. Let me guide you through it. You have to again click on gear icon, and under tools, you have an option which says import data. So I click on import data here. Now when we click on import data, we have these options: customers, suppliers, accounts, products and services, and the last one is trial balances. Now customers, if you have a list of customers, you can import it using this option. If you have a list of suppliers, you can import it using these options. You have accounts, you can import it with this option, and product and services as well, you can import it using these options. Trial balance and accounts, they're almost same. The only difference is accounts means you're just only importing a list, but you're not importing any debit or a credit balance. That means you're only importing an account but not the balance. But trial balance give you a freedom that you can import the accounts. Along with that, you can also import their balances. Hence, we recommend our customers to import trial balances rather than importing accounts. But entirely up to you. If you want to only import accounts, you can import it. I've just clicked on trial balances, and if you see, it says download a sample file here. It gives you this option. When you download this sample file, and let me just open this for you. This is the format that QuickBooks uses. It has this, these are all accounts are there, money market, SDFC, these are the default accounts. And if I want to import this list in QuickBooks, I can do that easily. How do I do it? Let's just go to choose file, and I have this chart of accounts here. Sorry, this trial balance here. I click on this and I just click on open. I'll just click on continue here. These are the accounts: savings account, money market, SDFC, product sales revenue, cost of materials. This is the balance that it had: 500, 340, 100, 200. I'll just click on import 5 records. And it says congratulations, 5 trial balances were imported. How do I check the accounts have been imported? I just go to gear icon and I go to chart of accounts. And I can see apart from ICICI now, I have money market SDFC, I have savings account ICICI, and I have other accounts which are listed underneath this. Now these are the accounts that you can easily import. Now let's try to import customers, a list of customers or clients with whom I deal or I do sales every day in and day out. How do I do it? I click on customers here. Again, you have a sample file. Let me just open this sample file for you. As I click on sample file, it shows me dummy names here. This is the format that we have to use: name, company, email, phone, mobile, fax, website. It has all the details here. What you need to do is you have to remove everything from here till here. Just ensure that you keep the headings on the top: name, company, email. All what you have to do is just add your customer's name here. Let's say you add test here, then the company name test. You can enter any email address, and you can mention the phone number. If you don't want to, you can leave it blank as well. Just fill in all the information that you want to add, and if you're done, just click on save, and you will be able to import this list. I have created a sample file here which is for customers. Let me just show you how it looks like. There we go. This is the sample file that I've created with the same format: company, customer, name, address, email, phone, and notes only. I have only added this much of an information. Remaining format has been taken off. So I can easily import this now. I click on customers and I click on open. Here we go. We can just click on next. And if you see, out of all these fields, only these fields which have a tick are filled: customer, company, email, phone, street, open balance, and currency. I just click on next here, and then I can click on import. As I click on import, it says 3 of the 3 customers are successfully imported. How do I check this? I go to gear icon. Rather, I'll just click on customers on the left hand panel here, and I can see these 3 customers have been imported. Test customer 1, test customer 2, and test customer 3 have been imported. Similarly, you can do this for the suppliers as well. Let's do the suppliers. You again have a sample file. You have to download the sample file and create a supplier list based on the same format. I have just created one, and I'll just click on next here. So this is the format that you have to use. Please ensure that we do not change the format here, because as we change the format, the mapping would not work. QuickBooks here automatically puts a tick against the transactions that have been filled. It will not happen, and that's why we always recommend our customers to use the same format that is there. You can just click on import, and it says 4 of the 4 suppliers are successfully imported. If I now click on suppliers, I can see these 4 suppliers are imported: QBO India, supplier 1, test supplier 2, and training supplier number 3. So these are the 4 suppliers which have been imported just now. Similarly, so what we've done is we've imported customers, suppliers, trial balances. The only thing that we're left over with is products and services. If you have a list of product that you want to import in QuickBooks, you can do this by using a sample file here. Let me download this sample file for you, and let me show you how it looks like. See, if you go on the right, it says these are the name of the products: fountain, gardening, trimming. Then it has the sales description, and then it has the SKU number. This is the very important part where it has the type. You can have service item, you can have inventory, you can have service, inventory, non-inventory. So you have to define this, and accordingly you can create a list of products and services. If you see, I have already created one for you. Let me just open this for you. Here we go. This is the list that we've created using the same format. It has name, pen, pencil, consulting, classmate books, stapler. Then it has type: service, inventory, service, non-inventory. And the one which has inventory should have a quantity on hand as well. The one which has a type as inventory should have a quantity on hand as well. Now all what I have to do is I just have to open this, and let's import this products and services in QuickBooks. So I'm doing this now. I'll click on next, and we can just click on import. It says 5 of the 5 products are successfully imported. How do we check that? We just click on gear icon, and under list you have an option of products and services list. Now if you see, it has all the 5 products. Classmate books is there, consulting is there, pen, pencil, and last is stapler. Hours and services are the 2 products by default which QuickBooks provides you. You don't have to create them, they're by default there in the product and service list. Now what we have done is we have done the initial setting of the company. We've imported customers, suppliers, trial balances, and we have also imported products and services. Now let's use them in some transaction. Let's sell something, let's purchase something and see what is the impact on the profit and loss report. Let me show you the profit and loss report before this. If you see it here, it has some, this is the profit that you can see right now, minus 160, because of some of the transactions that we just imported. Cost of sale, product sales revenue, minus 160 is the balance right now. But now we will enter some transactions and you will be able to see the impact immediately. Let's click on plus sign on the top left hand corner, on the right hand corner, and you have options under customers. You have invoice, receivement. Similarly, you have supplier transactions, then you have employees transactions, and some of the add-ons that we have in QuickBooks. Now what we need to do is, I think I'm getting a request to import the products and services. So let me just do that for you. Let me repeat the process of how to import the products and services. We have to click on gear icon on the top and we click on import data. As we click on import data, we have an option of products and services. You can click on products and services. You can download the sample file, use the same format to create a service or a product list for yourself. You can just paste all the products here. Please ensure that we don't change the format that is there on the top. Product service name, sales description, SKU type, everything has to be there. Anything that you're not aware of, you can leave it blank. Like tax on sales, I've left blank. Prices, I've left blank. So there are a lot of fields that I've left blank, but that's fine. Some of the fields which are mandatory are for quantity. It's for inventory, it's quantity that is important. You have to have a quantity there. And you have to use the spelling absolutely correct. The inventory, it should be in the same way that the way it is right now. And all what you have to do is just browse to the location, the file that you've created, click on open, click on next. It will map the product and you click on next. As you click on it, you click on import. QuickBooks will import these products. This is how you will be able to import the products and service list. All right, let's do one thing. Now what we can do is, let's try to use this on some transactions. The most commonly used transaction is invoices, where we are selling something to our customers. So let's click on the plus sign and we click on invoice. This is the invoice layout within QuickBooks. On the top left hand corner, it will ask you, and if you see, it says invoice number 1001. This is the first invoice that we're creating, and it has the number, invoice number 1001. But I can change this here. I can change the series here because I have selected the option custom transaction numbers. I can change the series. So let me just make it a 2016-17/1001. This is the invoice number. And if you see, it has changed now over here. I can select the name of the customer, QBO test customer 1, and whatever information that we've added, that is customer's email address, customer's address, everything would come up here. And if you see, it says invoice date as 3rd of January 2017, but due date is 2nd of February because we have used net 30 as the option. If I use net 15, that means I am giving only 15 days to the customer to pay the amount. I click on this and now the date has changed to 18th of January 2017. Now what we need to do is we have to select the product here, the product that we are selling to the customer. It could be our services that we're providing like consulting. It could be any product that we've sold. So let's say if I select pencil here and I'm selling 10 units of it. The total amount is 2750. QuickBooks automatically does the calculation based on 1. This rate is for one product. It multiplies by 10 and it gives me the overall amount here. 2750 is the amount. Now I have 3 options here. Save and new, save and close, save and share link, and save and send. What exactly the save and new means? Save and new means I'll save this and it will bring a new invoice, a blank invoice in front of me. Save and close means it will save the transaction and it will close the window of invoice. Save and share link means it will save the transaction and a link of invoice would be shared with the customer on his email address. And then we have save and send, which means it will save the invoice and it will send a copy of the invoice on his email address itself. Now what we can do is I can use save and close here. If you see it says invoice has been saved. Now let's go to customers and I'll show you the impact here. For QTO test customer 1, it shows the open balance as 2750 now. That means this customer owes us this amount. He has to pay this amount. Whenever he pays the amount, you can click on receive payment, or this is one way of doing it, or you can just click on this option here. You can receive the payment from here by clicking on payment. The other option is you can click on plus sign and you can go to receive payment. So whenever he pays the amount, we just have to go to this window. We have to again select the name of the customer who is making the payment. Here you can select the payment method, whether it's paying through cash, check, or a credit card. We can mention the reference number accordingly. And then we can define in which bank account you wish to deposit the amount. You have these three bank accounts: ICICI, Money Market, SDFC, and savings account. So I use savings account ICICI here. And to receive the payment, all what you have to do is just check the invoice here. As I check the invoice, you will see amount received shows 2750. But what if customer is only paying me 2000 rupees? The remaining 750 he will pay me later. So what I can do is I can change the amount here. I can just mention 2000 here and I just click on save and new. Now when I click on save and new, it brings me to back to the same screen, and if I select same customer here, you will see the same invoice is still outstanding, but now original amount is 2750. However, open balance is only 750 because we have just received 2000 against the same invoice. This is how you will be able to receive payment. Another important transaction that we have in QuickBooks related to customers is we have estimate, that is the quotation that we send to our customers before entering an invoice. Then we have sales receipt. Now what exactly is a sales receipt? Sales receipt basically is a cash sales transaction or an instant sales, wherein you went to a store, you buy the product and you paid it initially. You immediately paid the amount. You don't get a due date. So you don't have 15 days to pay the amount or 30 days to pay the amount. You have just made the payment then and there itself. How do we track a sales receipt? If you see, the number is there 20167 and it's continuing the same series 1002. I select the name of the other customer, test customer 2. And the only difference that you will see now is it doesn't have a due date. It has a sale receipt date and it has a deposit to here because it's an instant sale. It's a cash sale that we are receiving. So I will just select the services that we're providing. So let's say if I'm providing consulting services for 1000 rupees, I select this and I can select my bank account here. Let's say I select my ICICI bank account which has 100,000 right now into the account. I'll just click on save and close here and the sale receipt has been saved. If you now go to chart of accounts, you will see the impact there into these two bank accounts. Savings account bank account has 1500 as the amount and ICICI has 1,000 rupees now because of the payment that we've deposited into these two accounts. That is why. This is how you will be able to add sales transactions. Another option is credit note. Credit note is basically when you have done some sale to a customer. Let's say I've sold 10 units of a product to a customer, out of which 1 unit was damaged. So he returned the product to me. When he returned the product, let me just show it to you with an example. I'll select test customer 1. We sold pencils to him. We sold 10 pencils, but now he returned one of the pencil. He says it's damaged. And I can just enter the credit note here. Now what exactly will this credit note do? I'll just do a save and close here. I've added a credit note. Now, because we didn't receive the entire amount, we only received 2000 rupees, we still have 750 rupees to be received from the customer. I now click on plus sign and I go to receive payment again. If you now select the same customer, here is the amount. You scroll it down, see 750 is the amount that we're supposed to receive, but we gave him a credit of 275 because he returned one of the products. You will see that credit note here. If you scroll it down, there's a credit note. You can offset this credit note with this amount. Now the outstanding amount that you're supposed to receive is 475 and not 750. So we will not receive the 750 amount. We will only receive 750 minus 275. The remaining amount is 475 that we will receive now. I can just click on save and close, and the invoice has been completely closed. The invoice has been fully paid now. This is how you can use credit note option. Another option that we have is the refund receipt. Refund receipt is again the same thing. The only difference is in refund receipt, when you receive the product back from the customer, if it's a damaged product, if you receive it back from the customer, you don't give him a credit note so that he can offset it with any of the outstanding invoices, but you pay the amount back to him. So you pay the amount to the customer and he will not offset any of the credit note against any of the customer. This is what the refund receipt means. The next option is delayed credit. Now, delayed credit basically is an option where you were supposed to give a discount to a customer, but you forgot to do it, or it's a scenario-based situation. Let me explain that scenario to you. Let's say if I enter an invoice here, and I'm entering an invoice to test customer 1 itself. I select a product. Let's say I select 10 pens to the customer. The due date is 30 days after. That is till 2nd of February. I can mention a message displayed on invoice. Pay in and get 100 rupees discount. Now I am not assuring this that everyone will pay me within this time, but I am just giving a 100 rupees offer that if you pay me in 5 days, you will get 100 rupees discount. And I'll just do a save and close. The invoice has been created, and if customer says that I would like to pay it within 5 days, then what I can do is then I can use this option of delayed credit. Because if you see this invoice, this invoice is of 1500 amount. He will only pay me 1400 because he will get this 100 rupees discount. I cannot change the amount here. But then with this delayed credit, what I can do is, let me just add this delayed credit to this customer. We select the same customer here and we select the same product. Now what we can do is, or what you can do is, instead of selecting the product, you can just select services here. Discount applied as paid within 5 days. I'll mention 100 here and I'll just do a save and close. Now if you go to the invoice again, let's open this 1500 invoice. On the left hand panel, you can see a small arrow. If you click on this, you can see there is a credit discount applied as paid within 5 days. You click on add here, and here is the discount that's been applied. The overall amount is 1400 only. This is how you can use the delayed credit. Similarly, you have an option of delayed charge. Now delayed charge, what exactly does delayed charge means? It's again a scenario based situation. Let's say you have a customer who comes to your shop every single day and he buys something, but then we don't invoice him every single day. We invoice him, we do a bulk invoice to the customer and we invoice him after 7 days or after 15 days. How do we do this? How do we keep a track of all the transaction that he has purchased from us during these 15 days, and then we invoice him in one go? Let me show you a scenario. I click on plus sign, I go to delayed charge, we select the name of the customer, let's say test customer 3, and I give you a situation here. Let's say on 28th of December he came to our shop and he bought some pencils here. There we go. Let's say he bought 10 units of it. Let me just do a save. Okay, sorry. That will be, let's say if we have given him some services here and we charge him 100 rupees here. I'll do a save and new. Now the same customer came on 30th of December again, test customer 3, and we give some services to the customer worth 500 rupees. We again do a save and new. Now if we talk about the third instance, that is on, let's say, 3rd of January, or rather 2nd of January, we did some work for 100 for some hours. I mentioned 100 here. Now I'll do a save and close. How would I be able to combine all of these three delayed charges? On 3rd of January, that is today, if I select the name of this customer, QuickBooks will give me a pop-up here that you have 3 delayed charge for this customer. Would you like to add them? I just click on add all, and I can accordingly see all the invoices. I can do a bulk invoice right now to these customer, and we can just do a save and close. So we don't have to manually keep a track of each and every transaction, but you can just add delayed charges. This will not affect any of your accounts, but this will keep a track of the transactions. That's how you can use delayed charge. Now let's move on to the next option that we have under plus sign, that is for suppliers. Expense and check transaction. What exactly does this mean? You're going by with your family, you've just get some fuel in the car, and that's an expense for you, but you don't get a due date to pay the fuel expenses or any such expenses. So how do we track these cash expenses or a credit card expenses? We just select the bank account. You don't have to mandatory select a supplier, because when you are out on a highway, you don't select a specific supplier name that I have to pay this supplier for fuel only. So you can leave it blank, but the only thing is you have to create an expense account named as fuel expenses. So I'll just do it right now. I'll create a fuel expense here. It's a expense type, and we can just select a specific type of it, and it could be freight delivery, it could be shipping and material, or it could be travel expenses. I'll select travel expenses and just click on save and close. Now let's say I have used a gas of 500 rupees. I mentioned this here on 2nd of January, and I'll just click on save and close. That's been done. My expenses have been saved. Similarly, if I pay something through check, let's say on 2nd of January I've made a payment through check, I can just accordingly select the payment or the expenses for which I've made this, and let's say it will be any purchase that I've done and I've paid through check. The only difference is now it will ask for a check number here. So you can just define a check number, and you can mention the amount of check that you've written. You can just do a save and close. That's how you can track it. Now comes the tricky part. In purchases, there are some purchases that you do for your own consumption, like you've added fuel into your car, you've done some purchase for, you've done dining out with the family. That's an expense for you, and that is something that's been considered. What if you're purchasing some inventory from your vendor and you have to sell it to your customer? How would you track it? Let's say if I go to products and services now, I can see my classmate books have 150 on hand. My pencil are only 6 in hand. If I would like to buy some pencils, some new stock for pencils, I'll just click on plus sign. I'll go to bill. I can select the supplier because it's a mandate that you have to have a supplier. I select QBO India. Here comes you cannot use account here because you don't have pencil mentioned anywhere. No, but you can use item details. Remember, we did a setting initially that it should show you account details and item details for stock inventory. Now this option will not come in handy, account details, but item details will come in handy. I can select pencil here as I want to buy pencils. I mention, let's say 50 pencils that we need to buy, and you can just click on save and close here. Okay, sorry, I've just changed the date because we have imported the list today itself. Hence, it's not accepting any previous date. So I'll just do a today's date itself. And that's been done. If you see now, we have 56 pencils into our account. Instead of 6, we have now 56 pencils. This is how you can purchase the inventory and to pay this bill to my vendor. If you go to pay bills window, so what we've done is we've gone to the plus sign here, and under bills you have an option of pay bills. If I go to payables, I can see this bill of 7,500, which was actually for 50 pencils that we purchased worth 150 each. I'll just pay it from my ICICI bank account, or I can use any other account as well. I'll select this option. You can change the date whenever you want to pay it. Just click on save and close, and that should be taken care of. This is how we can track the payments. This is how we will be able to make these entries. Similarly, if you go to the plus sign here, then you have purchase orders. Supplier credit is again the same scenario, that you have purchased some goods and some of the pencils were damaged. So when you return it, you will get a credit note from the customer, which you can offset against a future bill. That's exactly what it is. Credit card credit is a cashback option, that if you use your credit card to swipe or to make a payment and you get some cashback into your account, it doesn't go into the same bank account, but it's a different cashback account which can be used further. That's when you use credit option. The next option is advance payment. We will leave this option for now because we will cover this tomorrow. As it's related to TDS part, we will cover this advance payment option tomorrow for sure. The next option is single time activity under employees. What exactly does this mean? Single time activity basically means when my employees are doing a job for a customer, and then I can invoice my customer for that job. How do I track it? This is an entry which my employees will enter. They will enter the single time activity here. I have to first of all add an employee. So I click on add new, and let's say I add a test employee here. We have to ensure that we select the employee as a type. I click on save, and let's say they have done a job on 31st of December for a customer named as test customer 1. Their hourly rate was 500 rupees per hour, and they worked for 10 hours for this customer. 10 hours into 500, that is 5,000 rupees. I'll just click on save and close. That's been done. Now, how would I invoice this customer for this number of hours that he has done? I'll click on plus sign and I click on invoice. As I select invoice, I can select the same customer, that is a test customer 1, and if you see on the right hand side, there is a pop-up that just came up. It says billable time 10 hours. The overall amount is 5,000. If you would like to add, you can just click on add. QuickBooks will automatically take number of hours. We can mention New Year party charges or anything that you want to do. We'll mention this and we click on save and close. That's how you will be able to use the single time activity. The weekly time is basically when you have multiple employees who are doing multiple jobs for different customers. You can add them in one go by using weekly timesheet. It's just the same thing. The only thing is single time activity is for one employee. Weekly timesheet is for all the employees that you have in your organization. Under other, we have some of the add-ons that we have in QuickBooks. For example, a bank deposit. Bank deposit can come in handy if you have received, let's say, an advance from a customer for a job you have not started yet, but he has given you a job and he has given you some advance as well. How would you track that advance in QuickBooks? This is the best option. You should use deposit. You should select the bank account in which you're depositing the amount. Received from should be the name of the customer. So let's say I select QBO test customer 3. And because we are affecting our customer's balance, we covered this initially, we have to use accounts receivable debtors as an account, and we can mention advance payment. Let's say we mention the amount as 10,000 here. All right. So, okay. So I think we mentioned 10,000 as an amount, and I'll just click on save and close. If you now go to customers and you select customer test 3, you will see this customer has a balance of minus 9300. Why is it so? He might have a balance of 700 something for an existing work. If you see here, you'll be able to see, yes, he had a balance of this 700, and then we received 10,000 rupees. So 10,000 minus 700 equals to 93, but that's a negative because he paid us in advance. That is the reason you're getting a negative balance here. Now he doesn't owe us anything. We owe him 9,300 because we have not invoiced him yet. This is how you can use this add-on options of bank deposit. Bank transfer is an option that can be used if you have multiple bank accounts, which means if you have, let's say, ICICI Bank and you have a money market SDFC, you want to transfer some balance from this account to this account. Let's say you want to transfer 10,000 rupees. You do this and you click on save and close. That's been done, right? That's amount that's been taken care of. This is how you can do the fund transfer. The next option is journal entry. Journal entry can be used only to effect balances of different accounts. You have to debit one account, you have to credit another account, but that's only can be done if you want to effect a balance of some account. For example, if I'll go to the chart of accounts now, in chart of accounts, let's say my savings account ICICI has a balance of 1975. The reason why it has 1975 as a balance because I forgot to enter a opening balance entry of this account. It should be 10,000 something. The balance should be 10,000 initially on 1st of December, but I forgot to enter that entry. How would I enter it now? It doesn't give me the option. So I can enter a journal entry here. I'll use savings account, and first of all I have to change the date to 1st of December. I'll select savings account ICICI Bank. The balance should be 10,000 as on 1st of December. And because it's the double entry system, if one account is getting affected, other also should be affected. So we can use the other account as opening balance equity, and you will see it will pick up that amount here. Your debits should be equal to credits. Your LHS should be equal to RHS as the mathematics formula. We'll now just click on save and close. And if you now see, my savings account has a balance of 11975. That's because 10,000 plus 1975 is the balance right now. This is how you can use journal entries. The next option is of statement. You can create statement and send it across to your customer. If you have these options, balance forward, open item, transaction statement, you can accordingly select the options, and if you click on print or preview, it will show you the way the statement looks like for customers. You can email these statements to your customers accordingly. The next option is for inventory quantity adjustment. Let's say if I'll just give it the option here, for example, classmate books, I have 150 on hand. Out of these 150, 10 of the books have been damaged. They have been kept out in the rain and they have been damaged. So I have to reduce my quantity to 140. I'll just mention 140 here, and you can see change in quantity is -10. If I just click on save and close, that's been taken care of. If you now go to products and services, you will see my classmate books has a quantity on hand as 140. But this entry has gone into the expenses. This has increased my expenses because when you purchase the product, you paid for 150, but now you only have 140 left. So 10 is an expense for you. That is why it has gone to the expense entry. So this is how, these are the different transactions that we can enter in QuickBooks using the plus sign. And let's see the impact of these transactions now on the profit and loss report. If we now run the profit and loss report, initially it was -160. You can see the impact now. It has income, it has cost of sales, it has gross profit. Some of the balances have increased, and now our overall profit is 7565 based on the entries that we have entered accordingly. Similarly, if you want to run the balance sheet report, you can run the balance sheet report here, and that should show you assets equal to liabilities plus equity. The balance of for assets is 127315, and liabilities and equity is also 127315, which means everything is working absolutely fine. So this is how you will be able to check that your balance sheet is it matched or not. With this, we have come to the end of the agenda that we have for today that we were supposed to cover. But before we move on to the question and answers for today, we would just like to show you what we have in store for you tomorrow. This is the day 2 agenda. What we will cover is TDS, that is how to deduct TDS when you pay an amount to a supplier, how to record the TDS transaction in which customer is deducting the TDS and then paying you the remaining amount. We will do the advance payment that we left today. We'll enter bills using TDS, invoice using TDS. We'll run different reports for TDS. Then we will work with transactions, that is online banking, which is how you can connect your bank with online banking in QuickBooks, and then how you can add, upload, and match transactions. We'll also touch base on sales and expense transaction page. We'll do some add-ons, that is budgets, recurring transactions, attachments, and the most important topic is multi-currency that we have for tomorrow. This is what we're going to cover tomorrow. And then of course we have a question and answer session. Now, before we move on to the question and answer session for today, we would like to understand how would you rate the today's session. Please participate in the survey that will be displayed on the screen, and we would highly appreciate your feedback on that. Please do participate, and also you can start asking questions. We would like to answer them right away. You can use the chat window to ask the questions, and we would like to answer the questions right away. I would request all the attendees to please participate in the survey that's been displayed on the screen right now. And yes, please start using the chat window to ask the questions if you have any. We still have about 24 minutes to go to end the session, and in those 24 minutes we can answer the questions. Thank you so much. We'll be closing the survey in next 5 seconds. For those who have not participated, please participate in the survey. All right, we're closing the survey now. Thanks a lot for your participation in that. Yeah, let's see. Now we can take over the questions. Yogesh Pabari, there is a question that you've asked, how to use multi-currency account like INR, USD, Euro. Well, we have this topic in store for tomorrow. We would request you to please attend tomorrow's session, and we would definitely like to answer the questions for sure. Ankush Mittal, you had a question about, I would like to know how to use products and services in transactions. I think we covered this today. We use products and services on invoices and bills. So I hope that answers your question. Raghu Ranganath sir, there's a question that you've asked, what is the reference number in receive payment? So reference number basically is referred to whenever you receive a payment, there's a reference number that gets generated in real life. If you want to add a check number there, if you want to add a credit card transaction number there, you can add that there, or you can leave it blank as well. That's entirely your call. Mohammed Zaim Rukuндin, sir, there's a question that you asked about, can you please repeat for creating credit note? So the credit note that we enter, the reason why we create credit note is if you have sold something to any of your customer and he has returned one of the products out of all the lot as it was damaged, that's when we use credit note to provide him a credit note so that he can get that much of a discount in next transactions. I hope that answers your question. Refund receipt was also an option that was being asked. That refund receipt basically is in a credit note, we send a credit note to the customer that he can use it in future transactions. Refund receipt is where we refund the amount straight away to the customer. So we don't give him any other option for a credit note. Yogesh, you have a question how to book bill with deduction of TDS. We would like you to wait for tomorrow. We have this in store. for sure. So you can wait for tomorrow. Sumit, you've asked a question, Sumit Agarwal. You've asked a question about, can you please show the expense entry? Expense entry basically is if you click on plus sign and you click on expense here, this is what the expense entry is. You can select a supplier if you want to, otherwise you can leave this blank. You can mention the expense for which you're making the expense. It could be you've bought some computer software or hardware, some purchase that you've done, some travel expenses that you've done, dining expenses. Accordingly, you can select this and just mention the amount here. Let's say you've mentioned 100 rupees and you do a save and close. This will immediately affect your expense account. I hope this answers your question, Sumit. Ankush Mittal, there's a question that you asked, how to show summary of payment done by the customer at different times. Well, we have different reports. If you see, if you go to reports on the left hand panel, you can just run so there is one which is transaction list by customer. If you select this, this will have invoices and payment accordingly for the customer. And then you can filter it out. What you can do is you can customize this report. Instead of in filters, you can select, it shows transaction type as all. You can change that to payment only. If you do this, click on run report. Now you have the payments only, the payment that you receive from different customers. You can accordingly see that here. I hope this answers your question. Neetha Pai, there's a question that you asked, if I want to apportion an expense equally over the months, how do I do it? It seems that you're talking about recurring transactions. That means you want this invoice to be entered or expense to be entered on itself every month on month. It can be done, but we have this in store for you in next 2 sessions. You can definitely attend tomorrow's and day after tomorrow's session, and we'll certainly cover this. Ram Kishore Jakaraju. Sir, there's a question that you've asked, how can we use this for project-based accounting? Well, when it comes to project-based accounting, we talked about classes initially, and that classes can be used for projects as well. You can just, or the only thing that you have to do is instead of department, you have to add projects there. And whenever you enter a sales invoice or a purchase invoice, you can define that this invoice or this sales or this purchase is for which project. That's how you can track it. Raghu Ranganath, so there's a question that you've asked. Will you show us how to set up invoice estimate? Well, I can just guide you how we can change the layout of the estimate. Let me just show it to you here. If you click on gear icon and you go to company settings, under sales, you have an option of customize look and feel. It will take you to this window, custom form styles. This is the by default template, and if you click on edit, this is how it looks like. That's how the invoice looks like when you take a printout. You can change this, you can change the layout accordingly. It's airy right now. Change it to modern. You can change it to fresh. You can change it to friendly. You can change the colors here. If you want to lighten the colors, you can accordingly change the colors as per your business requirement. Then you can make it bold as well. If you want to do some changes into this, for example, you want the text to be increased, you can change it here. Then you want page margins to be different, you can do it here. And the header, you can have these options. If you want the company address to be there, you can check the box. Otherwise, you can remove the fields which you don't want. Like you don't want email to be there, you don't want website to be there. Uncheck these options. Similarly, you have these custom fields that you can use. There are 3 custom fields that you can accordingly define. And in activity table, these are the default fields. For example, date is there, SKU is there, product service, description is there, quantity. So you can use these options. You can, if you don't want rate to be there, you want it to be called as cost, you can change it, and this will display on the invoice as cost. You can accordingly change the headings of these fields. And in footer, you can define a message. For example, every invoice should have a default message. Let's say you have a default message, could be Happy New Year, which should go to your customers in the entire January month. You can mention that. Or if there is a specific disclaimer that you want to add, you can just use this invoice and sales form message to customer, and this will be displayed on every single invoice. For example, if I mention Happy New Year 2017 and I just click on save, now if I enter an invoice, this would have by default printed on every single invoice, Happy New Year 2017. This is how you can do the layout changes. I hope that answers your question, Raghu. Kamar Ahmed, there's a question that you asked, how to enter my old invoices. Well, QuickBooks will allow you to enter backdated transactions without any issues. You should just change the date and you should be able to add it. Soumya Kundu, there is a question that you asked, should employee salary be under expenses or is there any other category? Well, if you're using QuickBooks only for the accounting purpose, then it should be under expenses. But if you're using the payroll package along with QuickBooks, so we have a Paybooks, we have a tie-up with Paybooks, and if you are subscribed for Paybooks, then you don't have to create an expense account. You just have to set up the employees there and set up the entire salary structure. You can contact support team for the same and they should be able to assist you with this. They can guide you how you can set up the entire payroll setup for QuickBooks. Prajakta Marathe, there is a question that you asked that if we want to make transactions in cash with persons other than customers or suppliers, How can we do this? So, well, in QuickBooks, what you can do is you can either track them as accounts, those customers or the persons, or you can track them as customers itself. So if you don't want to track them as customers, then you have to add them as account, because in QuickBooks, every single transaction that you do, it goes into some account. So you can track their name as account and that should work. I would suggest you can contact support team for the same and they will be able to guide you through the process. Ruchika, you've mentioned that you've missed the first half of the session. Will there be a repeat class? Well, this webinar happens every week. However, we will be sending you the recording of today's webinar by the end of the day today. You can definitely look for that particular recording. That will be sent on your registered email address. Thank you. Tarun sir, there's a question that you asked, Tarun Bantia. Can you explain what is refund receipt? Refund receipt, I think explained that if you've sold something to a customer and some of the products were damaged, he returned those damaged products and then you refund him the amount equivalent to the refunded product. That is what a refund receipt is. Priyadarsha Bhatt, there is a question that you've asked that how can we add the fee as a late fee if the customer has not paid the bill till the due date? Well, there is an option of delayed charge. If you click on the plus sign under customers, we have a delayed charge. That's a scenario based situation. You can use this option to charge customer for the extra amount if he has not paid within the set duration. I hope that answers your question. Prajakta Marathe, there's a question that you asked about how to create individual accounts other than customers and suppliers. Well, you can do this by just clicking on gear icon on the top and you go to chart of accounts. You can add different type of accounts there. Vijay, you've asked how to see individual ledger accounts of different vendors. In QuickBooks, all the customers and all the suppliers are located under one account, that is account receivable for customers, accounts payable for suppliers. But if you want to see individual account transactions only, you just have to click on customers on the left hand panel. When you click on customers, you can click on the name of the customer. Let's say I click on customer test customer 1 and I can see all the transactions here. Similarly, you can do this for suppliers as well, but there are no separate ledgers that gets created in QuickBooks for every customer. Swami, you've asked the question about service tax. We'll cover this on the final day of the webinar. I will request you to please wait till that time. Hemanta Kumar, so there's a question that you asked how to make a receipt for sales in bulk. We do not have that option of bulk sales entry. Yes, you can enter one invoice and there you can sell multiple products. That's possible. But if you're selling multiple customers, multiple accounts, and you want to track it in one go, that is not possible in QuickBooks. Mohit sir, you've asked about a question about importing invoices of entire month through Excel. That is not supported by QuickBooks. You can visit a website that is developers.intuit.com to see if there is any third-party software which can assist you with the same. Well, we still have 3 minutes left, so we'll be closing the session in next 3 minutes. I would request you please do look out for an email that will be sent to you by the end of the day, which would have the recording link and it will also have the question and answers that you have asked today. Sumit Agarwal sir, there's a question that you asked, can I entry suspense account transactions? Well, you should not use suspense account because that's for actually internal purpose. So we would not recommend you to use suspense account transactions. Right, well, I thank you all for your participation today. We do look forward to meet you again tomorrow, same time. And please do look out for an email that will be sent to you by the end of the day today. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day ahead. Bye-bye. I'm closing the session now.